Unlike the Guardians, we deliver every day. But like the Guardians, we're also not going to be screaming and yelling here.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right site can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. For everyone who is joining us, I am yesterday's number was 4 because that was how many base runners there were in the game. We had a lot of great guesses, but that is why. For those who do not know, it's a new fun game we are doing. But I am Jeff Ellis, the host of Locked On Guardians. I've been here since the start of the Locked On MLB network. Before that, I was a national draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7, as well as I'll make it easy today. For those who don't know, I change the number every day, and you're supposed to guess what it is. But today, I am I've written for every Cleveland sports blog ever, and that will and has existed, and I'm your 4.5 favorite blogger at every Cleveland sports site that has ever existed. Justin, on to you. Oh, I interrupted you. So now people are going to tune out.
Yes, that's it. That's the end of the show. No, I'm very interested to see where this half comes from. I don't even have a guess there. I'm Justin Latta, the other co-host. I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007, back when they had no prospects to promote, and they had no farm system to trade from. I have written at places like Guardians Baseball Insider, the Morning Journal, the News Herald, Prospects Live, and I've been here with Jeff since the end of 2022. When things went downhill, and then 2023 was bad, and this year was good, and now it's bad because the Guardians are on their first really bad stretch with 100 games into the season. They played 100 games, and this is their first, really, really ugly stretch. And one of the things we came into the year talking about, Jeff, was this has got to be a season of evaluation. They didn't really do a great job of it last year. They had this has been an ongoing theme for a couple of years for Cleveland, right? 2022, they had 17 rookies that played in 2022.
Yeah.
Last year they had a great season in 2022. They made the playoffs unexpectedly, and then 2023 they tried to add externally. They added Bell and Zunino to add some power. That didn't work. They had a bunch of other issues. They were missing Austin Hedges apparently, all those kind of things. They had some serious pitching injuries, but they had pitchers to turn to in the minors, unlike this year. And then this year, you're still playing a lot of young players because you didn't turn over the rosters to some of your remaining young players. So the question for Cleveland was coming into this year, and that's why we were surprised. They were not surprised they were winning, I guess. Surprised at how much they were winning. I mean, I said this team could have won 85 games. That was with Shane Bieber, and they've done it without him.
Yeah, they were on a historic pace.
And you've got guys in the lineup every single day, Bo Naylor, who's a second-year player. He's establishing himself. Rocchio is a rookie, and David Fry is a second-year player. And now you've got, Noel and Martinez and Schneemann. You had a Kyle Manzardo for a little bit. Jonathan Rodriguez was here for a little bit. So you've seen a lot of young guys come up here, and they've done very well. They continue to win. You've got and let's not forget, Hunter Gaddis and Cade Smith are rookies, right? Those guys are still considered rookies.
Yeah,
and
Cade Smith is 100%. He never pitched before this year.
Right, he's going to wind up being a Super 2 guy at this rate. I don't know how much a Super 2 is going to cost for a middle reliever, but we'll see. But my point is, and those guys are carrying the load in the bullpen with Clase, and it's great to have Clase and Barlow back there as veterans, so those guys have someone to also fall back on. But you have a lot of rookies, and the bullpen isn't the problem yet, thank God, or hasn't been the problem. But the point is here with this offense, obviously they're scuffling right now, is you've got so many rookies. So the question is, do you and young players, do you have this thing where you have too many rookies and you've got a bunch of guys who are hitting a wall, the league's adjusting to them, or is it just a slump at every which way? You've got a big stretch here where the offense has been struggling basically since that Baltimore series win. Things have sort of kind of hit a bumpy ridge here, and after the All-Star break, it's gotten a little bit worse. Or are you in a position where it's time to fix these things because you're in playoff contention? You have to ask Cleveland, are you still in the mode of trying to evaluate Will Brennan and David Fry and John Kenzie Noel and Angel Martinez and Tyler Freeman? Or have you gotten far enough down the road in 2024 that you think, all right, it's time to capitalize on this thing? We've seen enough of some of these guys. We've got to make a move. So, and it's not an easy call. And this is why this has been a question all year: were they going to try to continue to develop while winning? And that's the hardest thing to do in baseball, is threading the needle. That ugly word. I hate that word. I hate that phrase, because I feel like we've been talking about it for years. They're always trying to thread the needle of developing young players at the major league level, and while also trying to win. And when you have good stretches like Cleveland has had since April or May, whatever it's been, and then you finally hit a bump, and you have 7 or 8 guys that are first or second year players, and they all hit this bump at the same time, then you're stuck in a really, really tough conundrum. Do you let them try to get over it? Or do you send some back to AAA? Do you trade some? Or do you have to put a Band-Aid over it for the year and take advantage of the situation you're in?
Well, I think, one, if they're playing like this, you can't really trade them. There's not a whole lot of value. I think 2, for some of these guys, it's more than a slump. Rocchio has looked overwhelmed from the minute he was called up a year ago. And we're like, okay, give him the full season. And listen, there are positives with him. He does have a decent walk rate. This team needs that. The defense is above average. It's not, listen, if he was Jimenez level defender, you could live with it, but he's not. So with Jimenez and I think Will Brennan, let's be honest here, like Brennan inconsistency, I believe his name is William Inconsistency Brennan. Like that is his legal name, or I'm going to petition it to be changed to that. He goes up and down. And I think one of the big things to point out right now is like everyone is scuffling. It's not 1 or 2 guys. And so let's not overreact. Let's not go super negative. It's all burning down. Let's not make this that ESPN commercial with Charlie Steiner, follow me to freedom. It's not that situation here. It is not. Those were great back in the day. But the situation here is a lot of guys are scuffling at once. Listen, Quan was going to have regression. No one cares. I've recently had people debating me. BABIPs don't stay high. Luis Arraez at 340 is as high as it gets. Anyone over that, there's going to come down. Now, Quan is going to be great and he's going to be fine. But I'm just saying, like, this was going to happen. Like, he wasn't going to challenge for 400. The last guy who hit 400 happened before the color barrier was broken. It's a different game. Like, that's just one of those things that's never going to happen again. Sorry. But Quan is fantastic. He will recover. There are those guys, though, that, like, Rocchio, I think, does need to go. And it's great to give those guys. And the problem was like last year, they needed to give guys more opportunities, give them more at bats. Like Cole Calhoun should have been playing twice a week. I'll stick by that, once a week, and getting more eyes on these young players if you wanted to see them. Because right now you're contending and you can't play this game. You can't have Rocchio go out there and be an automatic out. You can't have Brennan go out there and swing it. Yesterday's game, every single out, I mean, he struck out twice, but his 2 strikeouts, only 1 pitch was in the zone. And then when he grounded out or flew out, that pitch was out of the zone. Manzardo is doing great. We'll get into some of this stuff, some of the options they have. But I know it says not letting things spiral, but I don't think it's going to spiral. Like Jose, part of the problem with age is he's either average or he's on fire. And we've seen him go up and down this year. He has not been consistent either month to month. He'll be fine. Naylor is really slowed up on that home run rate. He'll recover. I believe in Josh Naylor. I think it'd be foolish not to. Bo has shown signs of life. There is positives here. I just don't want, I see so much negative spiraling, and I don't want that. Like this team is going to make the postseason. I firmly believe that. Do they need help to go deep in the postseason? Absolutely. And that's where you need to make some trades. And the weird thing is the AL West is so terrible. They just got to keep doing what they're doing to a degree, and they'll still get a bye in the first round. Like, Seattle just lost a 10-game lead. Cleveland is still up significantly in their division. It's not a full-on freak out. Do they need to improve things? Do they need to not stand pat? Absolutely. And I think, shortstop right now, and that's that thing. Like Freeman is hitting well again, right? And he has been so up and down this year. Rocchio it really hasn't been up outside of a few weeks. They need to figure out what they're doing, who they're playing. But I also think Freeman has been successful more of late in a limited role to put him in situations to succeed. Like they've been very smart in how they're deploying him. We'll have to see if Martinez can continue, and we'll discuss I think some of the shortstop stuff. But I think one of the big things right now is, with success means no, you can't give these guys opportunities. And very specifically, for Arias, for Rocchio, for Brennan. These are guys who have had extended looks. And I don't, if anything, this team should no longer be gun shy about Noel and Benson because both have looked terrible this year. So it's kind of shown that like you have to trust your internal evaluations when it comes to players.
Yeah, if you're going to keep, and that's the thing, if you're going to keep relying on these young guys the rest of the year, if that is part of your plan this season, and because look, you're not going to turn over a whole roster just because you're in the playoffs. Like we're sitting here saying, like they may need to make a change at shortstop or figure out another calculus there, and probably another outfielder or something. You're still going to have a majority of these guys in the roster. You're still going to have to ride with them, and you have to decide which guys you're going to ride with. Like, yeah, we've seen a lot of Rocchio. We've seen enough. I don't know. I think there are things he needs to do to improve, and I think there's still things he could be better at. And
Agreed.
I think you could still send him to AAA to work on stuff and not quote unquote give up on him. I think that's the other thing we're saying is like, or confusing is like when you go out and trade for a player, you're done giving this guy a shot. Like ideally Cleveland's getting into the rental market. They're not looking. Yeah. I don't think a long-term piece exists. Like you're not going to go out and get, I kept telling people the other day, like everyone's wanting an Andrew Miller trade. And I'm not saying a reliever. I'm saying the guy you go out and has 3 years of control or 2+ years of control, and you're making a big swing. I don't think that trade exists on the market for anybody, not just Cleveland. Garrett Crochet might be the only guy, but we don't even know for sure if he's getting traded. And I don't think that's the trade for Cleveland either. But on the position player side, that trade doesn't exist. So if that trade existed, then I could say, well, yeah, then you give up on Rocchio or you give up on whoever, and you make that shift. Ideally, Cleveland's getting the rental market, and you're just saying, all right, Rocchio, here's these 4 or 5 things you got to do. You got to go to AAA, and here's a rental we're plugging in, or we're moving this guy to second base. Jimenez is going to shortstop. We're hoping Bazana's up in September. That's the plan for now. We'll reevaluate coming in the next spring training because he's still got options. There are some guys you can move on from, but the thing with riding with rookie players the rest of the year is you're not guaranteed to keep up the success because the league has figured them out. You don't know whether or not they're going to adjust back to them. You don't know if they've hit their wall or not. Like that's what happens when you ride with 7 or 8 guys who are first or second year players. You ride the highs and lows with them, and you try to avoid the lows, and you try to not get too high when things are good, like they were.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying not letting things spiral either, because we'll talk about how the Guardians haven't lost 4 in a row. Why people are upset that Stephen Vogt's not going out there and throwing trash cans in the dugout and kicking Gatorade coolers. We'll also talk about rage bait tweets and bad front office comments and bad trade proposals. We'll get into that, and we'll try to get into some position player prospect risers, fallers, trade value, and who could be an option somewhere at shortstop and other positions to help upgrade this team internally. So all that coming up on the rest of this episode of Locked On Guardians. Booking.com. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Summer travel is heating up. You missed your chance to go to the Hall of Fame weekend in Cooperstown. So you can't rely on Booking.com to go back in time. They don't do time
travel
machines. They don't do time travel. They're not Marty McFly and Doc Brown, but they can get you to your next destination. Maybe you want to go on the road and see the Guardians in Detroit now after they're losing to Detroit at home. Maybe you'll feel better about being in Detroit. I heard their stadium's actually pretty nice. I want to go. Yeah, I want to go. And there's some other good road trips still on the list for this year for Cleveland. Cleveland's 2025 schedule is out, so you can make your reservations for that as well. Check out Booking.com because they have hotels that overlook stadiums. Jeff's talked about the Toronto one. I would love to do that as well. That's always a great option. Playoffs. Jeff says this team's making the playoffs. I agree with him. Maybe you can look for a hotel on a road trip in the playoffs, hopefully after a bye. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals, whether that's Detroit, whoever the team Guardians are playing in the playoffs. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, in the Booking.com app. Guys, I'm going to be honest, when it comes to sports betting right now with FanDuel, the Olympics are going on. I don't know a whole lot about the Olympics. I was looking through some bets. It's tough right now. What I was looking at, though, on FanDuel was you have the Guardians are still minus 170 to win 90 games. So FanDuel feels pretty good about the Guardians still winning 90 games. The Twins are plus 100 to win 90 games. So they don't feel as good about the Twins winning 90 games. Maybe that gives you a little bit of confidence not to spiral right now. Detroit's doing a bullpen game, I believe, on Tuesday. Guardians have Xavier Curry. So naturally, it's going to be a 1-0 game probably when you think it's going to be like 8-7. So be careful where you bet on that side of things. But if you're into any of that, take advantage of FanDuel right now, because this summer and all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. Something for everybody all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer, or what's left of it. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Don't go to the screaming. We're not doing screaming and yelling here. Don't go to the networks and the sites that do screaming and yelling. Do Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and your Amazon Fire TV channels apps. It is local hosts that know your team the best. There is not a lot of screaming and yelling, I promise. Even though some people might scream and yell more than we do, I promise it's not like the other guys. And it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Every day during this stretch where the Guardians are really struggling offensively, I keep seeing a lot of people who want Stephen Vogt to be kicking trash cans and breaking Gatorade coolers and doing something to get fired up. There was a good article on ESPN, I believe it was Sunday, and of course it was coming out of the All-Star break where the Guardians are getting a lot of praise, and, you know, they did win the first game out of the All-Star break, so it looked all good, blah, blah, blah. But it was just saying how the Guardians really like Stephen Vogt's approach, very calm demeanor, and all this stuff they really appreciate about him. You know, they didn't get to the spot by Stephen Vogt being this maniacal guy, and they didn't hire him because they thought he would be that guy if things got tough. This is the first real bit of toughness they're facing this year. They've had a couple 3-game losing streaks. They've had no 4-game losing streaks so far. So Tuesday is going to be a big day for them. Austin Hedges said it after the game on Monday, just saying that, like, you know, we don't need a team meeting, you know, we don't need this whole big speech. Like, guys are aware of what's going on. They know there's slumping. They know that everyone's trying hard to be the guy that comes through and get the big hit. They had 12 hits against Tarik Skubal specifically. They had 12 hits on Monday night. They had, what did they do? They only worked 2 walks. They're not great. And then one of them was the guy in the 9th inning that the umpire was trying to drag across the finish line, even though the game was out of reach. They didn't really work a lot of walks. They could have done a better job with their at-bats in terms of maybe working Skubal a little bit harder, because they'll be through 97 in 7 innings. But they had 12 hits and expected batting average, which is not predictive. It's tells you what did or didn't happen. The Guardians had a better expected batting average than the Tigers did. Again, that means nothing. There's no flags for that. There's no banners for that. It's not predictive. But screaming and yelling and all this other stuff doesn't get you anywhere. Like, guys know what's going on. This is still a young team. A lot of these guys are trying to figure things out. So if you're getting mad that Stephen Vogt's not out there, like, screaming at Brian Rocchio because of an 0-for-4, 4 strikeouts, like, that's not helping his development. If you're looking for 1970s Earl Weaver stuff, man, I think you're going to be pretty disappointed. The other thing I keep seeing too, Jeff, is this. And we're not the first ones to point this out again over at Sylvia's Godcast. I know Zach has said this multiple times. Got to stop buying into anything anybody in the front office says. 99% of the time, these guys are not telling you anything. And if they're saying something publicly, whatever they do say, if it carries any value, chances are it's trying to put something in their favor. I'll say this real quick. I know I've taken up a lot of time here. The Cubs president of baseball operations was saying on Monday that, well, if we don't start playing better this week, or barring a winning streak, we're looking at, you know, all our moves are going to be looking at the future. And that got taken out of context. And there was some follow-up quote, and it said, like, well, we could trade some short-term pieces and try to get some long-term pieces. So they're kind of in buy or sell mode. And then Chris Antonetti said something to the effect of, well, the guys that are here are going to mostly determine our outcome anyway. And he's not wrong, because you're not going to go out and trade for 7 or 8 guys. You're going to trade for maybe 3 max if you're lucky, probably 2. Just got to be careful about whose comments you're taking seriously. And that's front office members, that's tweets, that's trade proposals that think Kevin Kiermaier is part of a blockbuster trade in 2024. Got to be careful with that stuff.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, remember leading up to the draft where all of us got a little too worried about the comments, and then, like, it was all smoke show? It's often smoke. Like, if they're on, they don't reveal their cards ever. Like, I don't know how many times I have to say, the Guardians don't reveal their cards ever. And anything they're saying. Players. And yeah, I mean, it goes back to, you know, I know you said there's like no one. It's like they might chase a Louis Rengifo. They might chase a Taylor Ward if those guys become available. Maybe it's a Jesus Sanchez. But most of the guys are going to be the guys here. And honestly, it's like, again, I'll point out like Cal Manzardo is a fantastic prospect who, I mean, he might be the best hitter they could add at the deadline. And it might be the call up there. Juan Brito just keeps hitting at every level. You know, he could be a trade asset, or maybe he's the guy. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a bit, but I still think they're going to go out and get something. They're going to try to improve. One of the big reasons is plain and simply, their roster is crowded. They're going to probably look to do some 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s with teams that could do that. You know, again, I think Jess Winker and Florio is there. Those are guys we know would be available. There are pieces and parts that we know are out there. And they, you know, if you're not going to use Gabby Arias, if he is not the guy, he still has trade value because of the defense and power. If Rodriguez isn't the guy, he's got power and arm. They've got a lot of pieces. So it makes sense to try to put them together to upgrade this team. So the upgrades are coming. You know, people rage sells online. I mean, let's not to get political, but like we know that from politics. Like rage is what sells. People love to rage online. It's why I spend less and less time on Twitter. I'm tired of all the rage in sports and politics and cakes. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Rage is what sells anymore. It could be puppies and people are raging.
Is this cake? Is this episode cake?
I mean, my daughter, one of my daughter's favorite shows at 6. Not as much so rage there, but it's like everyone wants to rage about everything. And this team has hit a rough stretch, absolutely. But like, they're still, you know, second best record in the American League. So, you know, like there's going to be ups and downs. People accuse me of all year of being too negative. Now they accuse me of not being negative enough. I know that already.
Right.
But like, you know, like let's take a deep breath, see how things go. Don't just sit there and be like, BS, cheap owners, they're not going to spend a dime. Like, let's not just dive into that. Because these are the same people too who said that when like the Guardians are trying to cheap out and not spend their draft money. It's like that's not what's going to happen. Like, let's wait and see and not just rush to rage. The rush to rage just drives me insane across all things. So let's see what they do. This is a fun team. Right now it's struggling. You know, the Yankees struggles. Lots of teams do this. Every team has ups and downs.
The Yankees blew their division lead already.
I know.
They're already in second place.
And so did the Mariners.
There's no team in the AL Central that's as good as Baltimore. And it's just Cleveland,
that's because Baltimore's the best team in the American League right now. But, you know, at the same time, it's
deservedly
like...
so.
I mean, I think the Twins or the Royals would conceivably be first in the AL West if they were dropped out there. Like, the AL West is even worse than the Central. So, like, as much
they
as
would
people...
both be in first place in the West right
so
now.
Like, also, I think there's some valuations... Though, you know, in general, it's like, this is a good team. I believe this is a playoff team. Am I frustrated? Absolutely. All my texts to you were negative because they get frustrated. But like,
them all out, yeah.
But I believe.
You believe in Stephen Vogt? You believe in Stephen Vogt, right?
I mean, see, if the season ended right now, he'd be the AL Manager of the Year.
Well, that was his All-Star campaign. Remember when he was with Oakland? I believe in Stephen Vogt. That was their.
Yes. No, I know, but I was more rolling the other way to be like, let's just take a second. Yeah. And roll off. But we're gonna come back and discuss shortstop, second base. I got some takes here because I think people are being silly.
Spicy. Is it a spicy cake? Find out.
That'd be terrible. First, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, unlike the Guardians offense right now. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, Guardians haven't hit a home run since the break, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit you right every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Now, I want to talk about our good friends over at Prize Picks. Again, they're doing this thing on Tuesdays where you get a free more or less. So the more or less is LeBron for half a point. So bet more that he's going to have more than half a point. So that gives you an easy one. And then right now for tomorrow, they only have hitter score. So tomorrow with a bullpen game, 7.5 for Jose, 6.5 for Kwan. How do you feel about none of the Detroit guys with Curry tomorrow? So you can't, unfortunately, no Riley Green to jump in and take. I feel like I'm feeling good about Jose tomorrow. I'm going to say go there. Quan has been expanding a little bit more, so maybe I'd say less on Quan, more on Jose. So along with more on LeBron, I just gave you a whole one. So you can go to Prize Picks, download the app, go to the website, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's LOCKEDONMLB, all lowercase, all one word, for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that simple.
Check out the Guardians if you dare on your SiriusXM app. Back on Tuesday, it is Curry versus a bullpen game at 6:40.
So a bullpen game on both sides.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it's going to go. So again, it's going to be a 2-1 game because we think it should be 8-7. That's probably how it's definitely going to go. All right, Jeff's got some takes on some prospects. We said we were going to talk a little more about prospects this week. We're going to start with hitters. And the one that makes the most sense, I know Jeff had a tweet about it before we even started recording this, but if you're going to get the seat warm for Travis Bazzana in September, you might as well get the car started now, right?
Yeah. So I had so many people tell me,
you can bring us back in.
Yeah. So sorry about that. There was a bit of a vacuuming noise issue for me. It was throwing me off. So I'm back here. But yeah, everyone's making this big deal about you can't, change ships. And we know they don't want to move Jimenez back to shortstop midseason. But also, that's what he played his entire career before he came to Cleveland. It's what he plays in the offseason. He was in +2 elite defender there. That's one of the reasons they wanted him back in the day. At least that's what we believed. It's not going to be that hard for him to move back to position. They moved Freeman to center field, arguably as valuable a position after spring training. So they can adjust. And honestly, I feel like with Jimenez, that's a guy who thinks too much. Sometimes he gets in his head, he presses. And I think there's a degree of value in okay, play shortstop instead of focus on that instead of your hitting and maybe see if that helps him loosen up a bit. And then you could play Brito there. You could play Freeman there if you wanted. Martinez can play there. That might be his most natural position. And, if Bazzana's the guy, then, hey, you've opened up second base for him, or you can, at least for now, if you want to try him out in September and no one's hitting, guess what? You've just cleared a pathway for him too. I just think it's the smartest way to go. Rocchio is clearly not working. It's just clearly not working. So at least then you have an elite defender there where you can deal, and it gives more value. And you're locked into Jimenez with that contract anyway. So let's get max value. Put him at shortstop. Let Brito, let Freeman, let Schneemann, let whoever play second base. And, I think it's just the smartest call. I know people always ask me about Jose Tena. His swing decisions, I know the data looks good in AAA, but his swing decisions are still really poor. And even when he was up in that short period, that guy still swings at everything. It's just, I don't see a pathway. The tools are there. I just don't see a pathway to success. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll gladly be wrong. I would love to be wrong because Tena and Jimenez gives you your best defensive up the middle for sure. But I just don't see it. He's not Brito's a top 5 prospect for me, and Tena's not top 30.
I think the best thing you can do in the minors anymore with evaluations, because the talent level has been diluted so badly with these minor league cuts and, especially with pitching, if you throw 95 and you have one average pitch and you're throwing 96, you're at least in someone's bullpen. So you're not getting good competition from pitching in AAA. I think the best piece of data you can look at, you want to look at hard hit rate and guys who are pulling the ball and hitting for power, all this and drawing walks, all this other stuff. But whiff rate in the minors, I think, is the most thing you can look at, because that at least tells you how much a guy is making contact or how much he isn't. When you look at a guy like Kyle Manzardo, we're pretty confident about him still. He could be a good acquisition. A 7.7 whiff rate in the minor, or swing strike rate, I should say. That's how many times he swings and misses compared to how many times he swings overall. So just looking at AAA, Juan Brito, 9.2. That's pretty good. When you're in the single digits in the minor leagues in terms of swing strike rate, you're in really good company, because even if you aren't facing the greatest amount of pitching down there, you shouldn't be whiffing a ton, right? You should at least be making contact with poor pitching. It's almost like the we always say Arizona Complex League, or the Complex League's stats are garbage. So you can't take those for anything. But if you're not performing well there, then you're pretty much not good. Like that's usually how it works. In AAA, if you're not dominating, you probably aren't good. And Jose Tena, to your point, a 14.2 swinging strike rate. That's bad. Like that's as bad, one of the worst, and they have in Cleveland's minors. The whiff rate is real because that's going to catch up to you in the majors. Again, that's why we have concerns about Giancarlo Noel, who's running a 50% strikeout rate since that Baltimore series when everyone started slumping after that Baltimore series. Like that's the one thing you can sit there and say, even if it's not translatable specifically, it's something you can say like, okay, if he is not swinging, missing there, the odds of him adjusting to the major league level are a little bit better because he's already at least hitting lesser pitching as it is. And I agree. I think you can, Martinez, unfortunately, on Monday had some rough decisions in the outfield in terms of judging fly balls. And that's from an experience. Again, you're playing guys out of position. Like Martinez is not a full-time outfielder. Freeman had a little more run there. Like even Noel made a nice catch, which was good. But like you have been playing a lot of guys out of position. That's going to happen. And the other thing too I want to address too, I know we want to do more prospect stuff. The other thing I want to address too is I think a lot of people are going to jump to, well, their body language looks bad and it just looks like they're going through the motions. Like a lot of that I think is confirmation bias. They're playing bad, you feel bad, we all feel bad they're not playing well right now. So you're going to naturally think, well, you're looking for signs of them looking poorly. Like that's the other thing too. You don't want these guys to start panicking. You don't want Stephen Vogt or Austin Hedges or any of these or Josh Naylor to be like, no, this is bad. We're mad. When they start doing that, that's when it's really time to push the panic button because those guys are really spiraling. But I'm 100% agreeing with you. Like, I think Rocchio needs to add some weight. I think that's what it is. I think he needs to add some weight. The bat speed isn't catching up to fastballs. He's not passive, but I think they sent Gabriel Arias down to they said catch a breather, but also like it seemed like he was going up to the plate sometimes without a plan, and it was hurting him. And I feel like Rocchio had a lot of that on Monday. Like he struck out 4 times, and he was taking fastballs that were strikes, and then he was swinging at sliders in the dirt. And I think a lot of that when you're a good player, some of that can be hard to what's the word? Compartmentalize.
Yes, compartmentalize. Get that word out. You're looking for.
When you're a rookie, that's even harder. Especially when things build up over time. So I don't think it'd be the worst thing for him to get a breather. Again, you don't have to give up on him, but you can say Martinez is hitting or he is having better at bats. We'll put him at second. We'll put Freeman back in center. We'll put Jimenez at short. Because even if you put Jimenez at short and his defense goes from platinum glove to just gold glove, that's still an upgrade over Rocchio because it's still better than what he's doing. And like you said, there's an off chance that it might get him out of his head offensively and allow him to simplify things a little bit. And then, like you said, you open up a spot for Martinez, or maybe you try Juan Brito out. Like, I'm not against that. I think he's worth a shot. But I'm also going to say Juan Brito. Now that I know when they draft guys, we never say like, oh, what does this mean for this player in the organization, because it never means anything. But Juan Brito's a man without a home, honestly. And Travis Bazzana is not going to be the minors. Even if he's not up this year, he's going to be up next year. I think Juan Brito's the guy without a home. I think he's the guy that makes the most sense for a trade. And I also wouldn't rule out Kyle Manzardo for a trade, depending on what's on the market, because it's going to be a seller's market. And I know one of our commenters, Dave Wendell, doesn't like to hear about CJ Kayfus. CJ Kayfus has missed 2 days, but I think he's also a guy who could be on the trade market too. Cooper Ingle playing super good, could be a trade candidate. Jason Churio and Angel Hanau. Watch what they do with the middle infielders.
Pitchers have value too. Those guys in Double-A are peaking now. And Alex Clemmie. Yes, it's like
do it and do it now while they have value. Don't do what you did with Tana and Rocchio and all these guys where you waited too long to trade them. Yeah. Do it now. Right. Yeah. This is the time.
And again, I'll do my patent line. Development is not a straight line. There are ups and downs. Very few guys jump in and stay in. So just because a guy is demoted doesn't mean this is the end of the world. Listen, we're still going to have to talk about some of these hitters, risers, and fallers. We're going to do some pitching prospects, risers, and fallers. So we're just going to do prospect risers and fallers tomorrow. I want to shout out to Juxta Jumper for your kind review. And again, I want to say, someone who claimed was a fan, then left us a 1-star review. So if you have not left a review on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate to get the 1-star review out of the top of the ones, because it just doesn't look good. So please consider leaving an iTunes review. Because again, it just doesn't look good. I don't understand. Maybe that fan doesn't understand numbers, but 5 good,
I don't understand
1
numbers either.
bad. 5
It's
good,
fine.
1 bad. Just so people know.
Math is hard.
So I hope I instructed Go Tribe there. But thank you all for joining us, rating and reviewing, downloading. It helps. Again, let's get those good reviews up on iTunes. Thank you for your continued support, and to all of our everydayers, go Guardians, go.